What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project XTalk Extra, your weekly podcast supplement from Project XTalk, where we talk about gaming news that didn't quite make the main show, wasn't quite Xbox related, but we still feel is important enough to talk about. Today, we're talking about Elden Ring. 2 weeks ago, at the time that this is going live, we received a 15-minute trailer from Bandai Namco showing the world of Elden Ring. And then late last week, outlets, influencers, YouTubers got their hands on the closed network test, I believe was the official title, where they got to play Elden Ring. They got to play the game. They gave us their previews, impressions. So we knew a little bit about it from the trailer, what the open world, classic Souls-esque bosses and feel. But now with the closed beta footage, we know a little more. So we've seen gameplay footage that includes how quests work, new classes, and so much more. So I'm gonna bring in my co-host Tom here. Tom, what were your impressions of Elden Ring from the previews that just came out?
It looks really nice, honestly, for compared to from that leak that we had ages ago where everything was super pixelated. uh, Visually, the game actually looks really good. Not surprised that they were able to pull that off. Solid 60 FPS apparently, so that's great. Looks good in terms of the visuals. But there was one thing that I saw that really tripped me up is this is more gameplay wise specific. It's
Okay.
the fact that he can jump. You can like summon your horse immediately, like mid fight in a way. I wasn't expecting that to be that way. I thought it was like more to me like your horse is on the side and you can go to him and just ride him in battle. But the fact that you can just rotate between that's going to be an interesting thing. I want to see how that actually works more. I've seen some of the boss battles with it, like them doing that. So I'm actually interested in the game, but it's Souls game. They're hard.
Yeah, it's true. It's why I tend to stay away from them. And I wish Amon was here because he is kind of like the Souls fan. I know you like him too, to a certain extent, but I think he's more like he loves them from what he says. He
I
you
have never seen him play a Souls game, so I'm calling you out on this.
yeah, Platinum Elden Ring. But no, my initial impressions of Elden Ring was I was like, wow, this world looks from an art style perspective. I was like, this world looks really good. I don't think it's like super next gen graphical showcase. Like, oh my god, like it doesn't even look as good as Demon Souls. I would say like Demon Souls, I think looks better
Oh
than
yeah,
Elden Ring.
it looks so much better.
Yeah, and maybe that's because like they have to make it for last gen too. But art style wise, it looks like a Souls game. It looks pretty good from what I've seen. I think what is putting me off, obviously, is the Souls mechanic. But then, like the open world to me looks very empty. They showed a lot of riding around your horses from place to place, and there's like there were no enemies on the grass. You would get to like certain, and I would call them like encounter areas. Maybe that's like your caves or where you're going to go find your objective. There are enemies there, but when you're just roaming the round, and maybe it's just because it was what they showed, I didn't see anything. It looked very empty.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't. I the world may look empty now, but from my experience with like Soulsborne games, they always add like hit things hidden in the path as well. So it'll give you a reason to explore. I know this is their first take on an open world game.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the other reasons is that there's no enemies around as well, is because they could add them technically, but the way that Souls games work generally is like the mob placement or the enemy placement is always going to be exactly the same, no matter like what cave you enter, what town you enter. It's always going to be the same. And maybe they wanted to avoid having to add an extra layer of strategy when you're roaming the world as well, and let that be the more relaxed experience instead of having to worry about getting sideswiped. What is
Certainly, certainly possible. I don't know. It's getting a little laggy. in here, but really good. I'm not sure what's going on. Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know. It looks, and I've heard some preview coverage about people saying like, "Oh yeah, I went into this cave," and then other people being like, "Oh well, I found a monkey," and he referenced that cave that you went into. So like, you can do things out of order and things like. It does seem like there is world building going on. Maybe not in the way where I'm like, okay, fill it with a bunch of like people and enemies, because maybe that's not the FromSoft way. Like you were kind of saying, that's just not how they do Soulsborne games. But the world can still feel like fleshed out. I want to talk to you about classes. Have classes been a thing before in these types of games?
Yes,
Okay.
Demon Souls and Dark Souls. In the beginning of the game, there's always classes that you go with, that you start as your base class, and then from there you build into whatever you want your class to actually be afterwards. But this one looks a little bit more focused in terms of the
Mm-hmm.
classes this time around.
Yep. So I have the list here. You have warrior, you have enchanted knight, you have prophet, you have champion, and you have blood wolf. So it looks like from what the previews are saying, every character does have the ability to use magic. It's just to what extent they can do it. Because I know, same. I think in Bloodborne, it was considered like magic was kind of OP, and that was kind of like the cheesy way to beat Bloodborne. So in this game, it looks like every character has a different level of like magical ability, and then their combat style can change. Like warrior obviously has two blades. You have, I think, champion is like the two-handed weapon. Bloody wolf is kind of like shield and sword mix. So looks like looks like they will be taking these classes and making it more of like a, your gameplay experience is really going to differ depending on what class you pick.
Yeah, and that's something more I want to see more of, honestly, just because I know the way the classes worked in the past, and they also felt a little different. This one looks a little bit more, since there's actual restrictions in terms of the magic abilities. So I'm interested to see how that works, and then how it works into like co-op as well, since I know that's one of the more big focuses of Elden Ring this time around. Where the last games, like, co-op was more not, it was more of an afterthought.
I mean, co-op's the only way I would ever even try this game. If you were like, okay, you can play the entire game co-op, and I think it's only one other person. Have they said is it up to four?
I have no
No
idea.
idea. If it was up to four, that'd be even better. Because like, I don't know. My issue is like when I was looking at combat of like the gameplay, I'm like, it still looks so like slow and methodical, and I'm just like, I don't like it. Like I was falling asleep there watching some of this coverage. To be honest with you, like I know this is unpopular opinion. Everyone loves Elden Ring and Souls games, but like the combat to me just looks so dull, so boring. I'm just like I can't get excited about this, and maybe that's my simple brain. I need big flashing JRPG ness to really get me into it. Um, what what do you think? Should they have mixed up the combat more, or is this kind of we've established what FromSoft's going to do?
I was hoping more of a change, from what I saw in terms of combat, and I feel like they've been improving since like Dark Souls, or yeah, since Demon Souls, Dark Souls. They just kept making their games a little faster.
Hmm.
With Bloodborne being a good example, and then Sekiro, like the one prior to this, like increased it by a lot, and making it, just you're way more agile. And this one still feels like you're heavy again. So
Hmm.
it looks more like that Dark Souls feel. That's a little slower. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I would have preferred something a little faster.
Yeah, I get that impression too. And I know they have made, changes. Like you have those the aerial attacks now. You have the horse combat, which I don't know if that's been in other games. People are really talking about it like these are brand new features, crouching, more stealth based stuff. So they have tried to mix it up a little bit, and maybe this is like the culmination of everything they've learned from the
Yeah,
previous games, where they're like, okay, Sekiro was too fast, maybe. Let's tone that down and then bring in some elements from Dark Souls and Demon Souls.
yeah. Like the stealth elements and the jumping attack, those were both in Sekiro. But it looks like like you said, they brought like the old combat and the slower combat.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm trying to think. Is there anything else you noticed in the previews that you want to touch on?
I noticed a lack of story. I want to know what the heck George R. was doing with the story here.
I've heard he only did like lore descriptions of like items. Like I heard his like involvement was really overhyped. That's what I read online. I don't know if that's accurate. Maybe he
Look,
wrote the whole thing.
it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I'm still waiting on a Game of Thrones book. I'm not sure the dude he's writing a lot, so he's not writing at all.
Yeah, the story, I have no idea what the story is. I have heard people were talking about like the quest system. There's no like official quest log and markers and stuff. Like you get, I forget what they're called. There's like certain checkpoints in the world that you can go up to, and it kind of like makes a gold glittery path, and they'll be like, okay, that's going to lead you to your next mainline objective, but like you don't have to follow it. You can just go explore like this cave over here and see what's going on, and maybe you'll find like a random person that's like, I lost my son, and then they don't say anything else, and then like 2 hours later you find a boy and it's like, I lost my dad, and you're like, I know where your dad is. That's what I've heard from previews I've listened to. So it's not like traditional quest giving in RPGs, but if that's the FromSoft style, that's the FromSoft style. Who am I to criticize? These games sell millions and millions of copies, and people like them. But
Yeah.
Listen, Elden Ring's the closest thing drawn me into actually trying one of these games. The only Dark Souls-ish game I've tried is Code Vein, and that game sucked.
I like that game.
Oh, I hated that game. I hated it. That's all I got for Elden Ring, though. You got anything else?
I got nothing else. Looking forward to seeing more coverage on this later on, at least. So I'll keep my eyes out.
Yep. We got a few months. I think February 25th is when Elden Ring comes out. So we got a few months, some more coverage coming. But until then, Tom, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Alpaca Tom.
And you can find me at the Muffin Mon. That's a 1 instead of an I and an O instead of an A. We will see you next time. Make sure to tune in for the podcast live Wednesday this week. Until then, see ya.
Bye.